So my name's Tom McBartlett. I'm the director of the electric utility. I've been here at the city since 2015, and I got a little over 25 years in the electric utility industry. I lead a team of 17 in the electric department and 3 in conservation. Most of what I talk about today will be focused on the electric department side of things because Chad's here to fill us in on the conservation piece. So the city has owned and operated its own electric utility since the early 1900s. We're one of the older ones in the state. For a lot of years, we've met all of our needs with local hydro generation up above Lithia, and then later on, the one that's currently still in use since the early 1900s up above where the water treatment plant is today. And today, we still meet most of our needs with hydro through the Federal Columbia River system, marketed to us through the Bonneville Power Administration. And the picture of the water coming over our dam up there, Reeder Reservoir, where that hydro comes from. Next slide. So today we serve about 12,500 meters. We maintain 53 miles of overhead line, 79 miles of underground line. We own 1 substation that we operate and maintain. And we have the hydro generator, like I said, which is still running today. And we also are responsible for maintaining all the vegetation in the right-of-ways under the power lines and on the underground stuff. And you can see a picture there of the last time we had our generator opened up. That's the Pelton wheel that the water hits and spins the generator. So recent happenings, completed a master plan for the utility. This is a kind of look at a whole system look and modeling and seeing where our weak points are or where we need to make our investments to meet our future needs and maintain all of our reliability. Before that, we completed a wildfire mitigation plan that was mandated to us by Senate Bill 762, which looks at our hazard areas and how to mitigate those hazards and kind of harden the system to protect us from wildfire, whether it be protect us from igniting a wildfire or protect us to be more resilient in the event a wildfire comes through our service territory. We've been working a lot on power supply contracts with the Bonneville Power Administration. Our current wholesale power contract expires in 2028. This has been a huge lift of a project. First for me, negotiating with a federal agency for a 20-year contract. And it's pretty interesting because it's not just us, it's 150 other utilities similarly situated that Bonneville serves, and we're all trying to come together to create a contract that'll work for everybody. We recently purchased the substation I mentioned that we maintain now. That was good for the city in quite a few ways. It saves us some money. It gives us the ability to add some capacity there. And we'll get into that a little bit more in a couple of slides. And we sent a crew to Springfield in January to help them with the ice storm. I'm sure people probably read about in the news and stuff. Springfield and Eugene were pretty devastated. Go ahead. So here's some pictures of that ice storm mentioned in the last slide. This is doesn't quite do it justice, but kind of gives a little bit of scope of what they really were facing up there. It was pretty devastating to those communities. And the outpouring from citizens and the utility staff at Springfield of appreciation that came back to the city was pretty incredible. Just the emails and letters and stuff we received. Next slide. So this is the substation I was talking about. Oh, it was.
Oh, sorry.
There it is. So this is pretty centrally located to our system, which was really good for capacity for future needs. And you can see there in the top of the picture that there's plenty of room in that substation to build. Whoever designed it was thinking ahead back in the 90s when that was put in, to give us that space to build capacity in there in the future. Hey, you fixed it. Way to go.
Thank you. Figured it out.
So, and prior to us buying it, we were basically renting it from Bonneville, and that rent was increasing every year. So by purchasing it, it really, and not having to pay that rent anymore, it's only 8 years payback time, and it gives us that local control. Next slide. So on Bonneville, our power supply, what we sell to you. The pie chart there on the left shows what the mix is, which is hydro and nuclear are the biggest parts. A little bit of wind, and then unspecified is just market purchases that are made to balance the system. And it's hard to track what those are, so they're just assigned a carbon emissions value, which goes to that picture on the right showing how small of carbon content our power really is, which is pretty phenomenal comparatively to the Northwest or the nation as a whole, in what the greenhouse gas effect of the power we're using is incredibly clean. And the other supply we have is our local resources. We have our Pelton Wheel hydro generator, which we produced 1.5 to 2 million kilowatt hours a year there. We have over 400 residential and commercial solar installations. The capacity, nameplate capacity, that's, I think, exceeding 5 megawatts at this point. And we are in the planning phases for possibly adding our own 1 megawatt solar installation at the airport. I'm pretty excited about that project. Had a meeting yesterday or day before yesterday about it, and it's really coming together to be a neat project if we can make it happen. And what we're looking at in the future, a lot of this comes from that master plan that we mentioned in a few slides ago, but adding some capacity at the Mountain Avenue substation, and that's looking at the forecast of what our growth and what our needs are going to be, and making sure we're ahead of them and have that capacity, so we don't ever have constraints or issues about meeting our loads and their needs, especially with the fuel switching and EVs coming online, and making sure we can meet all that. Looking at integrating smart switching technologies. These are so really cool new technology that's kind of getting into maturity now, and it is basically, it becomes a whole smart system where if there's a damaged piece of line causing an outage, the switches will switch around that piece, at least shrinking down your outage area, if not eliminating it altogether. And they can do it in a matter of minutes, just with microprocessor controls that are operating in logic controls. AMI, automated metering, smart meters, was one of the other pieces that came out of that master plan. Is a great tool for outage management and reliability, great tool for our billing, saves a lot of truck rolls for reading meters, and is a great conservation tool because you can have the ability to watch and monitor what you're using real time at your location, and adjust accordingly if you want to conserve electricity in your own home. Another recommendation was the possibility of building another substation on Nevada Street on some property the city owns. And there again, just to be able to add capacity and have that city control, instead of now where we're taking service from a Pacific Power substation and don't have that control. And of course, we're always ongoing with our hardening efforts for wildfire and resiliency and reliability. Next slide, Sabrina. I guess that's the end of it. Well,
All right.
I don't know if you want to do questions now, or do you want to wait till after Chad, Sabrina, or?
Why don't we go ahead and go through conservation real quick, and then we can do all the questions at the end.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Chad, do you want to drive?
Let me see. Let me see if that's possible this morning. You guys can hear me okay, right? So
Yes, we can.
let's go here, and I'm going to try to share that screen.
So I do want to give a shout out to Chad. Chad is actually on vacation in Hawaii right now, and very much wanted to be here to share about the conservation program. So we appreciate him zooming in to do that. We're a little disappointed that we don't see a palm tree in the background or a Mai Tai in the hand, but we'll let that go.
All right, is that maximized screen?
Yes.
All
Thank
right,
you.
good. Yeah, so one, I have holiday brain, and then two, this is a lovely gift you sometimes get on the airplane. I have COVID brain. I managed to get a nice little dose of COVID on my way. So I throw those caveats out in case I say something boneheaded. I'm blaming the COVID, okay? And if it sounds off, maybe it is. Ask me, and we'll get it corrected. So my name is Chad Woodward. I've worked for the conservation department within the electric department for a little over a year and a half. I'm one of three conservation analysts in the department, and we all have sort of different areas that we focus on. We have the three full-time staff. To the right is the top is Dan Cunningham, and myself in the middle, and then Larry Giardina at the bottom. And we'll go through each of our programs here in a moment. We have over 15 different incentive programs. Depends on how you look at an incentive program. If you look at a heat pump, sometimes that's three incentive programs in one. We have an existing loan program for low-income individuals and are looking at a brand new loan program, hoping to announce that soon. Other things that we work on is climate planning with our climate committee, and that is that citizen committee, and we'll get into that in a little more detail too. So starting off with Larry's focus, he is the commercial and solar guy, and we talked about, oh yeah, so happy Halloween. My kiddo helped me with AI. We took some photos of Larry and Dan. They let me. They're a little reluctant. And then we ran it through AI. This one's like a Japanese anime Larry up there in the right corner. He approved it. Just a little different flair for today. So one of Larry's major focuses over the last number of years has been solar, and Ashland's been a leader in solar. We have had an incentive, was one of the more progressive, larger dollar amount incentives statewide, but once the federal incentives got so large, we weren't the ones pushing the needle, so our incentive's a little smaller. However, we still have a very beneficial net metering program or virtual net metering program. And those mean that if you overproduce in the summer, you get to count those productive summer months against your winter electric bill and offset at retail rates how much you pay. So you're probably a little oversized in your solar in the summer, but undersized in the winter. And we try to help you balance that out and make your electric bill nice and smooth. Don't want to have you lose too much. If you do make too much energy, we still pay you out at the end of the year at a wholesale rate for that excess production. But usually we see people sizing appropriately, so they maximize their usage. And virtual net metering is a really neat tool as well. And that's, you could have a large solar array, and you could give the benefits to various meters around the city that are not directly connected to that solar array. So you can have solar even if you have a poor site through virtual net metering. It just has to be in a better location. Potential opportunities, maybe with that 1 megawatt airport system Tom mentioned down the road for us. We're excited to see what can come forth with that. The other major focus for Larry is in the commercial sector. He will work with various businesses. If you've been into Safeway recently, you might have noticed the changes on those cabinets for the produce and vegetables and meats. Now they all have doors. That was a project that Larry was involved with, and it helps increase energy efficiency in the store. And we partner with Bonneville Power Authority to push forward those energy efficiency incentives, and Larry's the point person on that. He'll also work with businesses on their heating and cooling needs, moving them from less efficient electric to heat pump heaters, heat pump air conditioning units if they didn't have one. He gets into some really wonky, detailed stuff like pumps and these variable refrigerant systems that you wouldn't typically see in a household. Another major focus in the past for energy efficiency has been lighting. As we move from incandescents to fluorescents to LEDs, Larry's been there for each of those changes, helping people make the change to more energy efficient lighting. And those usually have, for a business, a really good payback period, something that makes economic sense and energy sense for a business. The heat pump water heater that we see more commonly with residential units is also available for commercial units, just not as much uptake there. And then those fancy pump mechanisms in refrigeration, there are some real detailed commercial applications for energy efficiency that he gets involved with also. And then just to highlight the growth of solar is that chart down at the bottom. And going back to what Tom said earlier, you can see that's our annual production each year, our annual added megawatts, not the total, but it adds up to 5.4 total megawatts at this point in time. And that's, I think, through July of this year. So we have a lot of solar on the ground out there. Moving into Dan, this is Minecraft Dan, also created by my son's help. He focuses primarily on the residential areas, and he'll go in, he'll do a home energy review for individuals, help them identify areas where they could make the most cost-effective, energy-efficient upgrades to their home. Heat pumps are a common area. If you have old resistant electric heating, a heat pump is 3 times as efficient, a great way to save money, reduce costs. We also do heat pumps when people do fuel switching. That's become more common lately, where people want to switch from a carbon-based fuel, natural gas typically, to that clean electricity that Tom mentioned earlier. So that's something he helps with as well. Then there's the dollars spent on efficiency are always the cheapest dollars is kind of a motto out there. And so weatherization, windows and insulation, duct sealing, those are always really great places to start if you're trying to reduce your energy load in your home. We have washer and dryer incentives, which sort of go over into the water conservation area as well, but they also have electric energy savings there. And then heat pump water heaters is one of the newest things that we're seeing a lot of, where you have excuse me, that's the little tickle in the throat cropping up, where you use a heat pump mechanism for an electric water heater system. They're becoming more and more popular. They actually have some really slick units where they're 120 volts, where you just plug them into a regular old outlet and then add the plumbing. And it's an easier conversion than it would be if you had to install 220 to the site for your water heater. So that's the major areas that Dan focuses on, and he does numerous home energy reviews a year. You'll see that that's our total energy consumption in the chart. And what you'll see is, while we have seen more people move into electric appliances in EVs, our energy usage overall has gone down over the years. So you can attribute to the conservation measures and the increased solar out there on the rooftop. So needs going up, but total BPA consumption going down. So that's really cool to see. And then myself, I have a slightly different focus. I'm climate and energy. And the areas that I work on, we have an EV incentive. If you're not aware of that, it's the most liberal incentive in the state. We pay $1,000 per household for one EV. No one else in Oregon has quite the incentive that we do. So we're proud of that one. And we have a really high EV adoption rate. Our EV chargers in the city are free. And we also have a commercial incentive. So if you own a business, you can install EVs, and we have an incentive to help you pay for those so that your patrons or your workers can come in and charge up and have a benefit to them as part of their visiting your business. We also have a really robust e-bike program for both regular and cargo bikes, helps offset the cost of those e-bikes, which can be spendy, but they can offset a need for a second car, or sometimes for some people, a first car. The induction cooktop incentive is available both residentially and commercially. The Ashland Food Co-op just switched out some of their units from gas units to induction cooktop. Another restaurant in town, Moss, is also using induction cooktops for restaurant purposes. But typically, we see lots of households switching either from an outdated coil-style electric range unit to the induction cooktop. It's much more efficient, boils water very quickly on the stovetop, becoming very popular. So we're seeing quite a few of those come through. The EV car share is a newer program. And what that is, it's you pay per use. Again, another mechanism to offset having to have a second car, or it's a way to try an EV if you've never tried one and see if you like it. Currently, it's located at SOU, but this month, or excuse me, in November, it will be located down at our Pioneer lot. A little bit easier access for more people in town, and hopefully we can up the usage of that and allow more people to benefit from trying that EV and or offsetting their needs. A home energy score program is something we recently got a grant for, and this is a program where we will help incentivize an inspector to come into your home and do an audit and tell you what you need, much like what Dan does, but this is a more formalized program through the state. It's also used in real estate transaction settings where if you're really proud of your home energy score and you want that to be part of the sales pitch, you can have that included on the listing and say, hey, look, I have a great walkability score, but look at my home energy score as well. So it can be a benefit for home sellers, and it can also be a tool for determining what you might want to work on your home. And then the one I alluded to earlier is a loan program, the Energy Retrofit Ashland. This is a really exciting program. It's an on-bill financing style program where if you want to do a residential energy efficiency fix up on your home and it's between $5,000 and $30,000, you would be able to apply and get that financed without having to go through a bank at a low interest rate, and it would be paid back through your utility bill. It would be part of that bill, and the idea is that the savings would nearly offset the increased costs on your bill in many situations. Sometimes that won't always be the case, but the idea is that your electric bill won't go up much, but your energy usage will go down and you will be investing into your home. And it's, again, low-hanging fruit, really beneficial for individuals that may not qualify for traditional loans because the qualification process will be through the utility building department, and we'll just review your electric bill payments, and that's how we'll determine eligibility, not a traditional financial score. One other aspect that it's part of my job is being the committee liaison to the Climate and Environment Policy Advisory Committee. So as a staff liaison, you go to the meetings, you help guide them through the details and nuances of how a city works, try to help them understand how they can be effective and provide the input that they are going to give to city council. We also work on planning, and one of my other details is working on the website, and we'll jump into that in just a moment to show you how it works. And then I also look into various grant opportunities so that we can spread our programs out and do new and better things. The graph on this page just shows the trajectory we have for partial hybrid electric vehicles and battery electric vehicle registrations. We're in a really good trend, and trends take a while to fully develop, but if you follow that arc, we're trending in a way that we will transition to electric vehicles and hopefully meet our goals for the Climate and Energy Action Plan that's out there. And it's a positive trend, and we can use these electric vehicle registrations to benchmark how we're doing against that moving forward. All right, again, back to that committee. Has 14 total members, 12 are 18 or over, 2 are reserved for individuals who are 18 or under. We currently have 2 Ashland High School students, 2 city council liaisons, myself as a staff liaison. We have a representative from Southern Oregon University, Recology, and the school district. And we do currently have a vacancy. So if you're interested in being on the Climate and Policy Advisory Committee, go ahead and submit your application through the website. And I'll show you where that is in just one moment here. So let's see if this link will take me to the website like I hope. I haven't had a chance to test it. So this should take us over to review both the Climate and Environment Policy Committee and our incentive programs. And we'll just give you a quick run through of how to navigate our new website, which we are very proud of. It's much more streamlined and easier to get around in, and we have some really great links and buttons that are integrated nicely now. So here, that did take us to the site I wanted to go to.
So
However,
Chad, you're gonna have to share that site that popped up because
oh,
see it.
So I gotta stop my share.
Yeah, and reshare
Start
it
my
if you don't
share.
mind. Thank you.
Thank you. I was hoping it was seamless. All right. There we go. All right. Can you see the website now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So ashlandoregon.gov is the new site. Uh, Directly into the incentive page at this point, but if I'll back you back out, well, you always click on this upper left corner to go to the home page. This may be a bad idea depending on my that's speaking of today. Are we going on? Scroll down. One of these major buttons here is climate and energy and conservation. So that's one way to get to the site I was just on. The other area is you can go up to government and browse around in there. And excuse me, you'll see that there's climate and energy. You can get there through the electric department on this. Usually there's 2 to 3 different ways to get into our sites or our pages. For this purpose, I'm just going to click right here. And that take us to our incentives page, with climate action page, conservation, the incentive, excuse me, our climate plan page. But right here, let's just look at residential incentives as an example. You could go through later and click on any of these, but when you get an incentive page, what you do is it's going to show you the various options on subheading. And I'll click on heating and cooling. There's criteria to qualify. If they're not clear, there's always contacts if you have questions, so we can get in details there. What amount would be, how much the incentives, the requirements are for it, and then there's a lot of usually these little covering up.
Chad, you're kind of cutting out. I think the website's taking too much bandwidth for you.
You have to share this part. Okay. I have stopped there. Hopefully, you get the idea, though. There's a lot of great ways to click around in there. Under government, you can also go to committees for if you're interested in applying for a committee or you want to know what's going on with that committee. There's a link in there. You've probably seen that in other sessions as well. But again, there's lots of ways to navigate through our website. It's a great addition. And I'll leave it there.
Well, thank you, Chad. And like Chad said, if you are looking for an incentive and you don't quite understand how it works, both Dan, Larry, and Chad, they're all very responsive if you give them a call or shoot them an email. I'm in the process of getting a home energy audit myself. Dan has been very helpful in getting that scheduled. So definitely reach out if you have any questions.